Jennifer, when we're looking at this, I have to ask you, should parents, as we're continuing to, this was kind of a story that was really interesting when I saw it over the weekend. I was like, this could not be true. And like I said, it's across the board, whether or not that someone would actually put that letter and send it out. Well, we're finding out that in Dallas, this letter did go out. So Jennifer, when I talk to you, I've got to ask, should parents think about political agendas of the institution when choosing what college that they want their children to apply for?
Unfortunately, they really need to think about that before they decide where they're going to go. And I tell parents that all the time, that they need to look into the university, because you want your children to go to a place that has diversity of thought. And most of these left-leaning institutions have no idea what that means. They will be discriminated against, your children, if they don't fall in line with the leftist professors and the school administrators, which is really unfortunate, but it's the way it is. Their grades will be punished. Their grades will be punished if they don't write about what they want them to say, and they will be, unfortunately, in many groups, not popular. I'm speaking about myself. I'm a college Republican president, and I was public enemy number one.
Well, but this is Texas. This is a very red state. In conversations like I think that Texas is interesting because it's actually got a lot of diversity on it, and it's not just the African American community. The Hispanic community is very well represented, as well as you've got everybody in there. Texas politics are completely different, I think, than most states around the world. So do flyers like this actually help or hurt the conversation regarding race relations in a community like Dallas? And like I said, you have a large Hispanic population as well within that state. So does this help the conversation happening?
No, it actually hurts, especially in a city like Dallas. And speaking as a Texan, I know how diverse it is there. There's 41% Hispanic, 62% white, and there's 32% black. There's no need to divide these people by race. It only causes problems. What the ultimate goal is for the government to have more control over the people. So their number one goal is to divide by race, unfortunately.
So when you see something like this, the question is, those people say, well, if you just ignore the conversation, then that's racist itself. If you just say that, oh, everybody's the same, then you're not addressing some of the problems from the past. Something that I think colleges are starting to do right now by paying reparations to descendants of slavery victims. They're saying, we don't want to ignore it. So do you think it's fair, though, however, what about these other groups, to put one group over another? What about other groups that might be able to prove that they had injustice done to them in the past? Do you think maybe that conversation might need to start growing from this?
Yeah, I think that conversation could start growing, only to show how ridiculous the other conversation is. So if everyone looks in their lineage, at some point they will find an injustice that has been done to their ancestor. So we can't just pay everybody reparations. And how these Democrats always have these grand ideas of how to implement these plans, but they never share the details. How are we supposed to know what is going to suffice to get reparations? Are they supposed to prove that they were a slave owner, or prove that they were a slave? Is it going to be a percentage of their ethnicity? Like my nieces, they're half black. Are they going to get reparations? There's so many details that need to be worked out, and the whole idea is just wrong and terrible, to pin people down on race or pin people down for problems that they did not cause or had nothing to do with.
Okay, so then let me just ask this then. We always talk about the problems. What are the solutions? Where do you think that we can actually find a way to actually grow together and find something that we can grow from, where all communities, especially here in America, could actually say, let's have this conversation, and maybe we can start talking about the problems and find ways to be unified on others? Where do you see as probably those issues that right now, because Republicans, no offense, they have a really bad track record in history with attracting minorities and diversity within their party. Where should they do better?
Well, the thing is I think they were on a bit of a roll with Trump, as many minorities came over to the Republicans in vast numbers, more than any time in history. So they were doing a little bit better job in messaging, but they really need to have the leaders in these local communities come together and talk, maybe at public forums, and have the community come out. I think that would help a lot in furthering understanding for what each person in the community is going towards and where they feel things could improve.
Well, Jennifer, it's great talking to you. I think you're right. I think empathy in any of these types of situations and humbleness is usually something, unfortunately, the Republican Party doesn't known for in the past. I think that's actually where you're able to find solutions instead of this kind of divide that continues to show out. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you.